There have been a series of back and forth between the All Progressives Congress APC's Presidential Campaign Council and that of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP. The latest controversy raised was yesterday when the Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP asked the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, to arrest and prosecute the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, in order to avoid worsening Nigeria's already bad situation. They're raising a lot of allegations owing back to when Bola Tinubu was governor of Lagos State, and in fact the proceeds of the income of Lagos State and the taxation regime of Lagos State, the issue of alpha, beta, drug-related issues. Several allegations were the issues raised by the PDP Presidential Campaign Council as well. That press conference, like you saw, like you're seeing on your screen, was led by Mr. Dele Momodu, who is the Director of Public Affairs, and also addressed by Frank Shoaibu and Daniel Bwala, all of them speaking for the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council.
We're talking of a man who was convicted and who forfeited $460,000 to the American government because of a case involving or related to drug or heroin trafficking. But as of 2015, Bola Tinubu was still involved with drug traffickers. Yes, the records are clear. And according to him and his agents, his goons, that particularly from the documents provided by Alpha, the former MD of Alpha Beta Consulting, Tinubu's company Alpha Beta transferred the sum of $4,396,063 to a company known as Summit Integrated Services Limited. We hereby call on the EFCC, the NDLEA, the Nigerian Police, the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Department of State Services to arrest and prosecute.
Well, the APC, that's Frank Shoaibu, who is a public affairs advisor to Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP. Well, the APC had recently also asked Atiku Abubakar to step down from the race over issues relating to allegations of fraud, something that a video which came online about a man at Chimogo who said he'd worked with the former vice president and the issues of SPVs and how monies were being taken to some account in the name of the former vice president. A lot of issues were raised there. Now, not only that the PDP did that press conference yesterday, they in fact had said something new today, which before we entered into this studio was not on the ground, but I'll allow you to listen to what the PDP has in the offing. Just like their counterpart in the APC, they are dragging the presidential candidate to court. Take a listen.
Having been so convicted and fined, and having acceded to the sentencing by way of forfeiture of $460,000, Asiwaju Tinubu remains a convict. And the consequential effect is that he cannot contest election at any level in Nigeria. Consequently, our campaign has proceeded to the court, demanding the court to declare Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC, having been convicted as ineligible to contest the presidential election by virtue of Section 137(1)(t) of the 1999 Constitution as amended. 2. To ask the courts to compel the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, to immediately delist Asiwaju Tinubu as the presidential candidate of the APC or any other political party for that matter.
That is Kola Ologbondiyan, who is one of the spokespersons of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. So much to chew. As far as the APC is concerned, they have a lot to answer in terms of the questions that have been posed and raised by this. Look, I mean, Nigerians are concerned about some of these issues, either for the APC or for the PDP. Whoever they have to vote into office, they need to know whether these persons are fit, they have the character and the quality of personality to be able to lead them as president. So let's get talking about this. The APC tonight are the ones who need to answer some of these questions. And I'm being joined by the Director of Public Engagements and Special Operations for the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Femi Fani-Kayode. Thank you so much, Chief Fani-Kayode, for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
The conversation tonight is that of public interest. Whoever is on the ballot at the highest level is no longer a private citizen, is now a public citizen. In the sense that he's put himself out there. And there are questions that have been asked of your candidate. Now, how do you react first and foremost to some of these allegations raised by the PDP?
Well, really, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I mean, these are nonsensical calls by nonsensical people representing a nonsensical party and standing in and speaking for a nonsensical and irresponsible presidential candidate. I mean, you say that they should arrest Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or they should search his house, NDLEA, EFCC, and everything. Where is your evidence? What is the evidence, other than the fact that you want to copy everything we have done? The difference here between us and them is that we didn't just crawl out of the woodwork and begin to call for people's arrest. We had solid evidence, which we presented before the world, of a confession made by their candidate telling the world that how he was involved in scamming Nigerians and misapplying and misappropriating public funds. They have no such evidence. They're simply making baseless calls that have no rationality, no basis in law, and absolutely irresponsible and nonsensical. So we refute all that.
So your campaign was behind Achimogo?
No, not that we're behind it. We presented the evidence to the public. There's a big difference. We came across it like so many other people. It had been online for a number of weeks before we said a word about it. We took a position that we will not touch this until the Nigerian people had the opportunity to go through the material themselves. We didn't say a word, but it would have been irresponsible of us simply to sit back and say nothing, given the seriousness of that charge and that allegation and the things that that young man was saying, which we stand by. I mean, it's clear. You do not have a video or audio tape of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu dealing in drugs or misappropriating funds or anything of the sort. You do not have any evidence of his conviction by an American court. You don't have any of these things, but you call for his arrest, you call for searching of his house. Why are you doing this? Simply because you're desperate? We have touched a raw nerve. Our call was irresistible, and we stand by it, and we have gone to court. My colleague Festus Kayode has gone to court to ensure that the security agencies swing into action and look into that matter. Why? Because nobody is above the law in this country.
So now the inference that has been drawn into these, Chief Fani-Kayode, is that your party and your campaign is so pressured and you're so unnerving about the character and the personality of an Atiku Abubakar. You thought that if he's on the ballot, head-to-head with your candidate, you don't have a chance.
Not at all. The reverse is actually the case.
That's the inference the opposition are bringing to it.
There's no such inference because we do not regard him as a particularly strong candidate or a credible candidate. Actually, I personally don't see him as the real opposition. I think the opposition lies elsewhere, which maybe we'll talk about on another day. I don't see PDP as a viable opposition party. I think it's an imploded party, a party that's full of all kinds of internal contradictions, that's falling apart. They're fighting each other, the G5, this one, that one, and all sorts of things are going on within that party. So we do not see them as a threat at all. But what we do identify here, what we can identify here, is a group of people that have a criminal tendency, that have a criminal leader, that has committed crimes in the past when he was vice president, that has proved to be an irresponsible man and is unfit to lead this country. And it's our duty to point all these things out to the Nigerian public. That's what we're trying to do.
So your intention is that Atiku should not run?
Not? Well, of course.
That's what you're planning?
No. The point is this. Our intention is to ensure that the security agencies do their job and actually look into the evidence that we have provided. We're not simply making allegations based on nothing.
But your prayer to the court is that Atiku should step down.
But of course,
part of it is that
parts of it. That's just one aspect of it. The more serious part of it is the fact that he should be made to face criminal charges, like so many other people.
So when I ask you the question about the inference that the PDP is drawing into this, is that you are so scared of Atiku.
It's not a matter
and
of...
So, no, just a moment, Chief Fani-Kayode, that you are so scared of Atiku Abubakar that you don't want him on the ballot. And the question is whether or not you probably would have waited until after this election to try all of these legal fireworks after the election.
It's not a question of fear. It's a question of civic duty and responsibility. We have a responsibility to the Nigerian public and indeed to the world, to the people of this country, to speak truth at the relevant and appropriate time. And the truth is that a man that has confessed to using PVCs to steal public funds should not be on the ballot and instead should be behind bars. He has confessed, the evidence is there, something needs to be done about it, and we brought it to the knowledge of the public. What's the point of bringing it to the knowledge of the public after the election? Why would we do that? Why would we wait? We have no such obligation. We did it at the right time for the right reasons, and believe me, something will come out of that.
So, and I'd like to ask you, do you think somehow that you steer the on his nest by what you did in the first place, and perhaps you have brought this upon yourself, that perhaps what some people would call unnecessary distraction for your campaign?
Well, let me put this to you. I do not believe for 1 minute that any hornet's nest has been stirred, except for the hornet's nest inside the house and the home and the party of Atiku Abubakar. That's where the hornet's nest lies. Everything else that they have alleged, including the asinine call that one of their spokesmen made that our candidate should be disqualified based on the grounds that he was convicted in America. This is a simple lie, a fallacious mendacity, complete falsehood. He was never convicted. The Americans themselves said that he was not indicted and neither was he convicted. Yet they keep bleating like little children about these things. There's no basis of reality in it. But going back to what you asked me, look, it's a very simple thing. For us, this is a civic duty. We need to be responsible, and it is our duty to expose Atiku for what he really is, and we will continue to do that. They have tried to respond by bringing all manner of insults, all manner of fake allegations, false allegations against us, without what? Without any credible evidence. If you have that kind of evidence, present it before the public. So let us see. Then we will consider what you're saying. Until then, stop throwing bricks where you have nothing inside them to carry weight.
Do you have answers to some of the issues raised?
There's an answer to everything.
Dig into it?
You can dig into anything.
Let's get right into it.
Sure.
Now, and we're doing this exercise for the sake of Nigerians.
Absolutely.
The sake of the future of this country.
Nothing to hide. Absolutely nothing to hide.
At the end of the day, what matters is our country.
Sure.
I mean, no man is bigger than this country. So let's get to it. First and foremost is the allegation on the issue of Alpha Beta, the consulting company that involved in issues of taxation with Lagos State government, and how funds allegedly cross ends between that company, the ownership that had been questioned, and the relationship it has with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What is the concrete and the cogent answer that your candidate or your principal has in that respect?
The question is simple, and they need to answer this question. What is the relationship between Alpha Beta and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He's not the owner of the company. He has no dealings with the company. The company came under his watch, and it was contracted to do a job. It's done an excellent job in Lagos. It's worked in 6 other states of the Federation till today. Okay, so whatever happens in that company is between the company, the taxpayer, and the taxman, and the law enforcement agencies, and wherever they're operating. It's nothing to do with him. It's nothing to do with us. Now, to say because a company has allegedly done certain things in the past, many, many years ago, and allegedly sent money to somebody in Colombia, that translates into, assuming it's true, that translates into Asiwaju Bola Tinubu being a drug baron and unfit for public office. That is an asinine assumption to make. It has no basis in logic or rationality, and we refute it. And I urge them to be a little bit more responsible. And I also ask them this: can't they do any better than that? For goodness sake, if you're looking for something, look for it very well and try and find something. This is nothing but an irresponsible and asinine call. It doesn't make sense, and we refute it completely. There is no relationship between drug barons in Colombia, Alpha Beta, and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. None whatsoever.
You know the man called Apara, the former MD of Alpha Beta?
Well, I don't know him, but I've heard of him.
But you are very familiar with the case.
I'm familiar with the case that he brought up some time back, some years ago.
Okay.
And I was reliably informed the matter was settled out of court. A lot of allegations were made. The matter was settled out of court. The allegations were wiped away. And just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, that same man that made those allegations, that had that case, pronounced to the whole world that he believes that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be an excellent president.
Are you privy to some of the issues that man presented to the public?
The issue for me is this. I don't need to be privy to it. You know why? Because it's been wiped away. He himself has withdrawn those allegations.
Just a moment. And I mean, thank goodness, just a moment, that you are a lawyer.
Sure.
That something was settled out of court doesn't mean there is not existence of an issue.
Well, let me put it to you like this. That something was settled out of court simply means one thing, that it's been settled and those allegations are baseless. That's what it means.
So you're twisting it. Just a moment.
My own interpretation
just a moment, Mr. Fani-Kayode. If I may put this question to you. So because I'm not asking this because of any, I'm asking it for our viewers so they understand.
Sure.
That there was a settlement out of court doesn't mean that there is a non-existent of a big issue.
That it was settled out of court means simply that there was no such thing. That the man made baseless allegations. There have been civil issues, nothing to do with a criminal case, that they needed to settle out of court. That is how such things are done. But criminal matters are hardly settled out of court without criminal investigation agencies being involved. In this particular matter, as far as I'm aware, there was no criminal investigation into the matter. The matter was settled out of court after allegations, in my view, irresponsible allegations were made, baseless allegations were made. Maybe he suddenly saw the light and withdrew those allegations.